Good afternoon, this is Nick with Williams Sewer Line Inspectors performing a video inspection for 6854 Iris Circle in Los Angeles. Alright, what we're looking at right now is the portion of the sewer line which is underneath the city streets, underneath Cahuenga, directly in front of the property 02239 North Cahuenga. And there's about 3 feet left on my city sewer map before we're locating the city sewer, perhaps between 3 and 5 feet. It's going to be the same material. Water flushing down through this system is doing just fine. I've flushed about 2 or 3 bathtubs full of water down the system without any resistance. And that was in order to be able to get my camera to this location. A little bit of after 127 feet and does about that, which is not enough for me to be able to get to the city sewer. That's also rapidly dying out. So this is as far as I can get at this time. What we're looking at right in front of us is some water coming in through the line underneath the street. This is a concrete pipe material. And then we go into a clay material here. Looks like there's some cobwebs on the top of the pipe. These joints look actually really very good. There's a little bit of a crack here. I went ahead and marked that. That's about 4 feet from the left-hand turn lane in Cahuenga. It's 8 feet deep underneath the street. At this point, that crack is small enough, it's shallow enough, and thin enough that it does not require replacement, particularly not if you're digging 8 feet down into Cahuenga Boulevard to do it. It's just not that much of an issue to warrant that. Here we're going, I think it's pipe material transition. This is some roots coming in through that transitional joint. This is a concrete pipe again. Good joints so far on it. There's a lot of friction on this line right now. Some roots coming in. It should be cleaned. The cleaning is not going to be able to be done from the access which currently exists. There's a separate spot I marked on the street, or not on the street, but I guess, yeah, it was on the street. It's about 3 feet deep, and we'll be coming up to it, and it's just right next to the curb. Using that spot that I marked, and that's 3 feet deep in the street. It's about 4 feet from the curb in Cahuenga, just out in front of the property 02239 Cahuenga, North Cahuenga, which is the downhill neighbor from this property. There's a little bit of an offset in there with some roots coming in through it. If maintained, this can be kept in a form which I think by pulling just a few feet back from my mark, a spot in the city planter area could be dug out. It's only about 3 feet deep, so that would allow access into this line to clean this latter portion of it. Definitely a little bit of an offset with a lot of roots in it right there. It's a little bit of a crack in a joint of the pipe with some roots coming in it. It's not visible because of the amount of roots. I would recommend a hydrojet cleaning. Overall, this is a much older. It will eventually start to fail. Replacing this line would be untenable. I also believe that this line is shared by your downstairs neighbor. Let's see. This joint here. It's a little bit hard to see everything in it just because of the. It would be a good idea to get a hydrojet with a video on it as well. But what I can see so far shows me that the pipe hasn't collapsed in any area. Here we go to cast iron. This is underneath the neighbor's property, just below this house. Cast iron's much older. Probably got another 15 years of use left. Typically, once cast iron starts to show signs of failure, you have about 5 years to replace it before it becomes really a health and safety issue, because of the amount of sewer will eventually allow to escape the system once it's been in failure for quite some time. Right now I'm not seeing any failure in the pipe. What we'll see when the cast iron pipe starts to fail is we'll start to see roots coming into it, which we don't see any of. And we change materials again here. We're in a drop. There's a lot of debris coating the line, so it's kind of difficult to see what that material is as long as we're in this drop, and water will be sitting on the lens. Once we pull out of the drop, the lens should clear up pretty well. It's a very, very long drop. Okay, and then this plastic. Okay, good. Plastic is a great material. Lasts for a couple hundred years without any trouble or problems. So this is definitely a recent upgrade, which is great to see. It matches the material of the access that we use today. So far it's plastic now coming back. That was 40-something feet where that drop was, and the drop was about 10 or 12 feet deep. If not a little bit more than that. So we're really talking about probably about 60 feet of plastic, 50 to 60 feet, which is great. And we go into cast iron. There's a little bit of roots coming in through this cast iron right at the joint, and that is typical. Cleaning can get rid of those. Just where two different types of pipe join together, it's not indicating that there's a hole in the walls of the cast iron pipe. We go right back into plastic, so there's really only a few feet of cast iron. And I believe that is also on the neighbor's property. And then here's where we access the line today. So it looks like all the pipe which is on your property is plastic, and then we have a little bit of cast iron as we go onto the neighbor's property, just a few feet. Goes right back into plastic. We get another 60 or so feet of plastic. This is the access we use today. This is the back door, side entryway. Once we get out past your neighbor's property, the pipe goes away from a cast iron, which it has been for probably about 30 or so feet of pipe on the property, on your neighbor's property. And then it goes into a concrete pipe, which also then switches into a clay pipe and then back to concrete. There's some more information about concrete that you should know, and I'll put that in the written report. Overall, I wouldn't advise that any work be done on this sewer line at this time except for a cleaning, and that cleaning is going to have to be a hydrojet. The hydrojetter may ask that a new access be put in down below in the street, because the access that we have up here is not really fully sufficient, just because of the number of the bends and everything that gets through it. Usually if my camera can't get through it, a hydrojetter can't get through it as well. Other than that, if this line were ever to go into failure, I believe it's being shared by the property beneath you, but I couldn't guarantee that. I did see some tie-ins. If this line is being shared, typically a good written agreement between this house and the neighbor below would be a good idea to have, just in order to get agreements on who fixes what and who pays for what in terms of sewer maintenance and repair. Right now there's a tiny crack in the street. If that's maintained, it shouldn't develop into a major problem. Water has no problem getting through the system. If the system were to fail some point in the future, I would probably recommend, there's a new sewer line that wasn't in existence when this house was built. That's on the Iris Circle. I would recommend taking this access that's back here, putting a pump in, a sump and a pump, and just pumping it up to the level of the city street above on Iris Circle, and then doing a new connection to Iris Circle, rather than dealing with this line which goes under the neighbor's property and then underneath Cahuenga, 20 or 30 feet underneath Cahuenga, 8 feet deep. It's going to be a real problem trying to replace that. So right now it doesn't look like it's going to need replacement. It should be maintained. Lack of maintenance may cause that to break at some point in the future, in which case I would run a line up to Iris Circle rather than trying to patch up this line going down to Cahuenga. Again, this is Nick with Williams Sewer Line Inspectors. Please see my written report for all final findings and recommendations. Thank you very much, and have a great day.